Barazzaru! What?
Welcome to Liberty City, the land of opportunities. You want to live the American dream? Forget about it. We don't sell those anymore. But you know what? You don't need a stable job, health insurance, or even money. Put on those smelly pants and that oil-stained coat. Grab your phone and start hustling. Because in Liberty City, your life is the product. And I think the real villain of the story isn't a person, but the economy itself. For an immigrant like Nico Bellic, who couldn't find a job in his own country, Roman's letters were his saving grace. Just imagine fighting for your country, committing untold horrors for the elite, who see you as nothing more than a pawn, only to find yourself with no job and no skill to settle down. But then you remember the letters your cousin sent you about this country where even someone in your situation could get rich and successful. You remember the mansion, the sports cars, and it makes you feel like you have found an escape to your personal hell.
Ramen! Are you sleeping, you fat fuck? Come on!
That's how Nico felt when he left everything behind to join his cousin in Liberty City. But life is disappointing, and Roman's fortune turned out to be made of lies and cockroaches.
That's right. I got the base cockroaches, I got the base dirt.
His mansion is nothing more than a rundown apartment. The sports car is just a taxi cab, and his business is struggling. And once the illusion faded, a major difference between the two cousins became clear. Their beliefs. Roman saw hope in the American dream, whereas Nico saw an escape. Roman talked about Liberty City the same way influencers talk about entrepreneurship today. It's all about freedom, money, and success. But what the pitch forgets to mention is the debt, stress, and survival. Roman is an aspirational immigrant and an optimism-driven risk-taker. He's joyful, caring, and always willing to help his cousin. But he's also a good example of the harsh reality of Liberty City. He runs a small immigrant-run taxi operation that is constantly being threatened by loan sharks and other criminals. It's quite symbolic of the false American dream theme present in the game. Roman clings to the American dream like a self-delusional fantasy. He believes in economic and social mobility, but his legitimate business is trapped inside a system that constantly pushes people toward desperation and crime. And after falling for the marketing illusion, Nico became the next victim to experience the more brutal life of immigrants in Liberty City. This contrast between aspiration and reality is what makes this GTA particularly grounded. Whereas Roman tries to carve out a legitimate life for himself in Liberty City, Nico is pulled into its underground economy, not out of greed or ambition, but out of loyalty to his family. War left Nico with no transferable skills, forcing him to rely on Roman's old phone for whatever informal work Liberty City could offer. From this point onward, Nico's phone stops being a simple gadget and becomes essential to both gameplay and storytelling. Beyond the usual missions and job offers, the phone turns relationships into practical assets and rewards you with perks ranging from taxi services and mobile armories to helicopter rides and clothing discounts. And if you skip the activities, you miss out on a massive amount of Nico's backstory, his deepest philosophies on war, and the eccentric and deeply flawed personalities surrounding him.
Yeah, great! Let's go! Love the fun fair! Actually, we call it, carnival here. Just a little difference. Whoop-de-doo!
But maintaining those relationships creates pressure and erodes boundaries. The perks you gain aren't just convenient, they are useful. They make Nico more efficient on the job while blurring the line between friendship and professional partnership. Simple leisure activities like bowling or drinking turn into professional investments. Friends become prioritized based on their usefulness. This is the reality for independent contractors in informal and unstable labor. Every person becomes a potential client, every interaction a potential trade.
But don't fuck with my family.
And every social investment a potential return on investment. Neglecting someone leads to less opportunities, moral choices dictate your earning potential, and loyalty becomes nothing more than a card to play in negotiation. Nico is constantly forced to balance personal feelings with professional obligations just to survive in Liberty City. And Vlad is the first to take advantage of this situation. He uses Roman's debt to force Nico into doing dangerous labor for him for pennies. But for Nico, it is his first taste of the cynical underground gig economy of Liberty City, a labor market model outside the protections of the formal economy.
Bang, bang, you are dead. Wake up, you moron.
You got me.
Nico has to live from contract to contract and rely on other immigrants to survive. That vulnerability put him in a weak bargaining position, making him easy prey for people like Vlad. Beyond his insufferable attitude, Vlad offers inconsistent pay, little respect, and treats Nico as disposable labor. Yet Nico accepts it because he has few alternatives. At that point, the only thing Nico really knows is war. He doesn't know how to negotiate, push back against bad clients, or demand more money. Nico just takes whatever work will pay for his next hot dog. And as the story progresses, Nico never truly escapes that survival mentality. Although his English improves and he learns to navigate in Liberty City's social networks more effectively, his livelihood remains dependent on a constant stream of contracts and referrals.
So, tough guy, you know about this business?
I know about protection. What do you need?
Like many independent contractors, Nico survives in a reputation economy where networking is essential. The moment the work stops coming in, so does the income. GTA 4 does a good job at capturing this constant pressure and makes you feel the exhaustion and uncertainty that come with living one contract away from financial collapse. And unlike many GTA protagonists, Nico never escapes that position. He never builds an empire, controls territory, or establishes a stable source of income. He remains a contractor selling his services to whoever is willing to pay, regardless of their social status. People don't care about his affiliations, his past, or his ambitions. They care about one thing: whether he can get the job done. After Nico finally gave Vlad a much needed swimming lesson, his career didn't stop there. It expanded through referrals, contacts, reputation, availability, and a bit of luck. From Faustin to Manny, from Playboy X to Pegorino, opportunities keep finding their way to him. Not because he has qualifications, connections, or status, but because he delivers. But there is a price to pay when you choose to live this way. Survival didn't just teach Nico how to spot opportunities, it changed the way he sees people. Every new relationship becomes a potential source of work. Every favor carries professional value. Every social interaction becomes part of a larger network of obligations and opportunities. The boundaries between friendship and business begin to disappear. And the more useful Nico becomes, the harder it is to separate emotional intimacy from economic survival. What's fascinating is that this isn't just Nico's problem. The same logic has infected Liberty City's citizens. Everyone is networking, everyone is hustling, everyone is trying to remain useful in a city that treats people as disposable the moment they stop generating value. Liberty City is a bustling city. Take a walk down the street and you'll eventually run into someone asking for your help. A runaway teenager, a desperate stranger, maybe even a serial killer. The city is full of people, but its true face tells a different story. The streets are busy, yet despite all that activity, the city feels lonely. The difference is that rather than being physically isolated from one another, the people of Liberty City are emotionally isolated. Most characters spend their lives hustling, surviving, worrying or chasing opportunities. You rarely see large groups of friends spending time together. Most relationships exist in small, fragmented circles. Roman and Brucey, Jacob and Batman, Nico and whoever happens to need something from him that day. And that's what makes Liberty City feel so cold. People don't connect because they want to, but because they need to. Think about the random encounters scattered throughout the city. Almost every stranger who approaches Nico wants something. A ride, a favor, protection, support. Their problems may differ, but they all share the same motivation: survival. Everyone is indebted to something: money, addiction, family, regret. Everyone is trying to survive in their own way. And we see this logic reflected in the people surrounding Nico. In most GTA games, characters are defined by their criminal affiliations. But in GTA 4, people are often defined less by the crimes they commit than by the survival strategies they adopt.
Trying to be honest with these people. We put them through a lot today.
Fuck these people, fuck your cause. That shit's over. Ireland's not the only thing that's green. Dollars are too.
Now you said bloody Ireland. That's gonna narrow the search, ain't it?
Roman is a perfect example. He represents the aspirational immigrant. Someone who genuinely believes that hard work, optimism and a bit of luck will eventually lead to success. His taxi company is one of the few legitimate businesses we encounter throughout the game, yet he constantly undermines his own progress through gambling, debt and reckless financial decisions. Roman doesn't just want stability, he wants the fantasy that was sold to him. The mansion, the money, the success story.
The fast food, the cheap gas, the fake titties.
And that's what makes Dimitri's betrayal so important. When Roman's apartment and business are burned to the ground, GTA 4 exposes just how fragile that dream really was. Years of effort disappear overnight. There is no safety net waiting for him, no insurance payout. In a matter of hours, Roman goes from struggling entrepreneur to a man with nothing. Yet what stands out isn't the loss itself, it's Roman's reaction to it. While Nico is consumed by guilt and anger, Roman refuses to let the setback destroy his optimism.
You know everything is shit, and we're going to be killed, and you're all cheerful. I don't get it.
I guess I'm an optimist.
An idiot, not an optimist.
In many ways, he's Nico's opposite. If Nico represents the disillusioned immigrant who came to Liberty City looking for an escape, Roman represents the immigrant who still believes success is just around the corner. Ironically, the cousins end up correcting one another's flaws. Roman's blind faith in the American dream helps drag Nico deeper into Liberty City's criminal underworld. Meanwhile, Nico's cynicism and the consequences that follow him eventually force Roman to abandon some of his most self-destructive habits and pursue a more realistic path towards success. Dimitri's betrayal becomes the turning point for both of them. For Nico, it reinforces his belief that hope is dangerous, but for Roman, it proves that optimism alone is not enough. Bruce is a different kind of dreamer. If Roman believes success comes from hard work and optimism, Brucey believes it comes from branding. Everything about him is performance. The shouting, the erratic behavior, the endless workouts, even steroids. Brucey treats his own body as a marketing campaign, carefully manufacturing the image of a self-made alpha male who has figured out the secret to success. But that's precisely where the joke lies. Behind the muscles, confidence and flashy lifestyle is a man who spends much of his time acting as a middleman, hiring contractors like Nico to do the actual work.
Now listen, Nikki. I need you. And I will pay heavily for this.
Okay.
Brucey sells the image of success more effectively than success itself. Back in 2008, he was a parody of gym culture, steroid masculinity and self-help millionaires. But today, he feels less like a parody of his era and more like a parody of ours. Influencers, crypto gurus, alpha male podcasts, online entrepreneurs. Brucey fits surprisingly well among them. His business model isn't built on producing value so much as projecting the appearance of value. And the funniest part is that the person most convinced by the performance is Brucey himself.
Come on, start you!
Pure gold, eh, big man?
Maney represents a different survival strategy. While Brucey monetizes status, Maney tries to monetize morality.
We gotta get some of these dealers off the streets, man!
You never see him without a camera crew nearby. Every action is documented, every speech is performed, and every interaction feels designed for an audience. He presents himself as a reformer trying to clean up the streets, but his public image depends entirely on the existence of the problems he claims to fight. The irony is difficult to miss. Maney condemns violence while hiring Nico to commit it. He criticizes crime while building his personal brand around it. He speaks the language of community improvement, yet everything he does ultimately serves self-promotion. Like Roman and Brucey, Maney is chasing a version of success that remains perpetually out of reach. He survives by combining genuine social issues with personal branding, moral language, and performative authenticity. He packages concern into content. The goal isn't necessarily to solve problems, but to transform them into visibility, relevance, and opportunity. Had Maney lived for a few more years, he would have become a grifter on YouTube. And then there is Dwayne. Dwayne isn't trying to get rich. He isn't trying to build a brand. He isn't trying to reinvent himself. He's simply trying to catch up. Fresh out of prison, Dwayne returns to a city he barely recognizes. The people he knew have moved on. The rules have changed. The opportunities have disappeared. Everywhere he looks, he finds evidence that Liberty City rewards momentum, usefulness, and adaptability, not loyalty or history. Dwayne represents the people left behind by the system. Through him, Liberty City reveals its harshest truth. The city never stops moving. Fall behind long enough and you become obsolete. Nobody waits for you. Nobody slows down. The economy keeps changing. People keep adapting. And survival belongs to those who remain useful.
I mean, I used to have everything. I used to run uptown. Bohan, all that shit.
And Nico is no different. Like everyone else in Liberty City, he has to remain useful if he wants to survive. His skill set makes him valuable, but also replaceable. There is always another desperate person willing to take the next contract, another trigger waiting to be pulled. And so Nico lives one phone call at a time. Answering the phone stops being a convenience and becomes a necessity. Every call is a potential opportunity. Every missed call is a potential loss. Every decision has to justify its cost. You can't spend money on a night out when someone else might call with work tomorrow. Over time, survival becomes a form of constant self-management, networking, negotiating, staying available, maintaining contacts. It's exhausting. And that's why Roman is such an important character. For most of the game, Nico is surrounded by people who value him for what he can do. Roman is one of the few who values him for who he is. He often calls at the wrong time, but never for the wrong reasons. Roman constantly pulls Nico away from the logic of Liberty City. He reminds him to go bowling, grab a drink, and spend time with family. He reminds him that not every relationship needs to be profitable. In a city where everyone is trying to remain relevant, Roman is one of the few people who refuses to treat Nico as a commodity. He reminds him that loyalty still exists. And more importantly, he reminds him that people are worth more than the value they can provide. Back in 2008, GTA 4 felt like a cynical parody of the American dream seen through the eyes of an immigrant. 18 years later, however, what once felt exaggerated now feels strangely familiar. The game was released on the eve of the 2008 financial crisis, at a time when faith in economic mobility was beginning to crack. Liberty City was built on debt, instability, and financial anxiety. Yet looking back, what is most fascinating isn't how accurately GTA 4 captured 2008, it's how accurately it captures the years that followed. The world of GTA 4 runs on networking, reputation, referrals, personal branding, and constant availability. People bounce from opportunity to opportunity, maintain relationships for practical reasons, and live with a fear of becoming irrelevant. Success isn't measured by stability, but by your ability to keep moving. Sounds familiar? Today, we call it hustle culture, we call it freelancing, we call it personal branding, we call it the gig economy. Liberty City had all of those ingredients before most of us even had smartphones in our pockets. The technology may have changed, but the logic remained the same. GTA 4 was the first game in the series to make phones and computers central to both gameplay and world building. Suddenly, maintaining contacts mattered, emails mattered, dating websites mattered. Your phone wasn't just a gadget anymore. It was your connection to work, opportunities, friendships, and survival. Looking back, it feels like Liberty City was standing between two eras. One foot remained planted in the old world of factories, taxi depots, and traditional employment. The other stepped into a future defined by digital communication, flexible labor, and permanent connectivity. And perhaps that's why GTA 4 has aged so well. The game isn't really about organized crime. It's about economic insecurity. Crime is simply the language Liberty City uses to talk about it. And when you think about it, the tragedy of Nico Bellic isn't that he failed the American dream, or that he never even had a chance to achieve it. The real tragedy is that Liberty City turned Nico into another cog in a declining economy, forcing him to reduce his life to a constant cycle of social and financial anxiety, all for survival and a future burdened by painful consequences. Nico arrives believing violence ruined his humanity. But Liberty City finishes the job through survival itself.